So first of all, very nice to meet you. I've been following, obviously, HYROX for some time. I've been following you for some time. You've been on the Elite Horizon for some time. And there's a couple interesting things about you, a couple interesting questions I'd like to ask you. So that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So, first question: have you ever been told that you look very close resemblance to the actor Tom Cruise?
Yeah, I actually have like a handful of times. That's funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
First things first, because the first time I saw you, I think the first Elite 15er, I was like, that's Tom Cruise running there. That's
like
him.
Tom Cruise made the Elite 15. Let's go.
Yes.
No, I
that's
think I've
him.
got like a head height taller than him though. I'm pretty sure he's a short dude.
Yes, maybe the height. Yes, I haven't seen him in real life yet, but the facial resemblance is there.
Okay. Yeah, I have been told that a few times. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, we already started talking about your journey to Switzerland, and tell me how you like it there, because I've been to Switzerland a handful of times. I've been there to the St. Gallen race. It's obviously a neighbor country to Germany, and it's as far as I can tell, very nice place, very beautiful landscapes, and has a couple of serious advantages compared to living there, compared to living in other places. So what's your experience been like?
Yeah, so where we live in Basel, it's right on the border to Germany. So like we actually do our grocery shopping often in Germany because it's a hell of a lot cheaper. It's just like can get there on a bike in less than 10 minutes to the grocery store across the border. So that's easy and a nice little bonus of living here, because I'm sure everyone's heard like living expenses and things in Switzerland is definitely up there. But then again, like salaries and stuff compensate for that. So yeah, on that respect, like it's a really high standard of living. It's nice, it's comfortable. I've got to say, like the lifestyle and yeah, just kind of the culture and everything of New Zealand I like a bit better, but this is also very up there. Like we've got two countries where we could sort of decide to live, and both are very up there.
Right.
Yeah, scenery and everything here is beautiful. Where we live is just a little out of the city of Basel, so we've got sort of the river, the forest nearby.
That's
which
nice.
Is great for walking the dog and doing long runs. But we can also get into the city really quick and easy, so it's a good spot.
Oh yeah, that's nice. It's nice. You can get to things pretty quick. Get to places very quickly, because the country itself is small enough so that half an hour drive by bike or by car, and you can get not pretty much anywhere, but you can get pretty far that way.
Yeah, and the public transport is insane. Like coming from New Zealand, that was a massive difference, because we don't have anything going on in New Zealand, especially out in the country. Like I would have a 30-minute bus ride from my place to school on the school bus, and then by the time we turn 15, like everyone gets their driver's license and is driving everywhere.
Oh wow, 15.
But over here, we don't have a car. We can get around the whole city on a bike super easy, and when we want to go elsewhere, like the public transport is real convenient and easy to get around, so don't even need a car here.
Yeah, it's same here in Berlin. Like in Berlin, the public transport is also very, very well connected, and Germany and Switzerland are good countries to go to if you like public transport. If you like to get around by public transport, pretty convenient, that's for sure.
You know what? I don't know if you've heard, but the Swiss people like to give the Germans crap about their train system timing. So if you have a Deutsche Bahn, then it's going to be late and delayed, and but the Swiss timings are on point.
Exactly. Yes, on point. Deutsche Bahn is a mess, and I remember recently I visited a place near Cologne, and everything went well. Like we left, as a matter of fact, left Berlin on time, and then arrived there on time. So but on the way back, the whole journey was fine. And then as soon as we entered the first station in Berlin, something happened, and it was there was a delay happening, and eventually I arrived 20 minutes late. First I was I was calling my parents, was like, okay, I'll probably maybe even be a couple minutes earlier than I thought because everything is on time. Who would have guessed that? But then no, of course not. Deutsche Bahn messed up again. Who would have guessed that? So that's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
I've been to a handful of HYROX races in Germany because it's pretty convenient for me to get to, and yeah, the pro men's races are usually like later in the evening, right, 6, 7, and so I just bite the bullet and have a late night that night and come home on public transport afterwards, which usually should get me back, depending on where it is, like around midnight. But numerous times it's been pushed to like 4 a.m.
There you go.
Yeah.
From midnight to 4 a.m. That's quite a delay.
Yeah.
That's
sucks.
quite a delay. So, okay. Topic switch. Enough about public transport. Can you speak German, by the way? Or are you kind of
nicht so gut?
Ein bisschen, nicht so gut, nur ein bisschen.
Yeah.
It's enough to be able to survive there.
Yeah, I can get by a little bit.
Get by.
Funny enough, our gym, like my gym that I run here, is probably 80-90% like foreigners. Somehow that there's a lot of expats working in Basel, so somehow that came about, and English is the best language to use there, luckily for me. So I haven't really been forced into it. There's like I have to kind of make my way with German a little bit, bits and pieces here and there, but man, Swiss people speak so many languages.
That's right.
Languages, and English for pretty much everyone is very easy. So yeah.
That's right. And even if you were to speak German, and if the Swiss people were to start speaking their German, you would have a really hard time understanding them if it's their Swiss German. Like, it's a whole different language.
Exactly, and most of them enjoy speaking English. It's a good chance for them to speak if they talk with me. Like, true. If I try to start speaking German, or I might say they'll ask me if my German is okay, and I'm like, oh, not very good. We'll try to start speaking German, and then because they say that their English is terrible, and they immediately notice, okay, my okay German is way worse than their supposedly terrible English. Yeah, so then we switch to English anyway.
Yeah, so because some communication is more important than sticking to German, no matter what. All right, so now you already mentioned your gym. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So you do run a gym in Switzerland, because first time I saw that, I didn't know you were living in Switzerland. On Instagram, I saw that. I was like, because they offered a workshop or something by, the guy who runs the gym, and it's supposedly Beau Wills. And I'm like, isn't he from New Zealand? How is he running a gym in Switzerland? Like, is it possible to live on the different side of the continent and still run a gym in Switzerland? And why Switzerland? But now things start to make sense.
Yeah, I've confused a lot of people actually over the last few years with that. Yeah.
So, what's the name of the gym? Tell us a few things about it.
Yeah, it's called Tahi CrossFit, and so it started out. Yeah, it still is a CrossFit gym. It's just over 5 years old now, and then in recent years we affiliated it also as a HYROX gym. So it's HYROX and CrossFit, and then obviously with the popularity and also my success in HYROX, it's kind of 50-50 now. Like, the amount of classes we offer for both fitness methods is pretty much the same, and yeah, it's going good. It's me that runs most of the classes, and I have 3 guys that help me out as hobby coaches, filling in when they can. And recent months I've kind of stepped back a little bit with the amount of coaching hours that I'm doing to focus a little more on competing and training, and more so recovering. So yeah, that's been quite a good step actually. It's helped me a lot, and but yeah, I love it. I love the community we've built here, the people, and everything that goes along with sort of running a gym affiliate. It's been awesome, Yeah.
I've seen you offer the HYROX workshop before the St. Gallen event. Do you offer those workshops on a regular basis, or something that you do regularly, or was it like a one-time thing? HYROX
No,
workshops?
I've done a handful by now. I actually did 2 or 3 when I was just back in New Zealand for a few weeks, and I've done one in Germany in Dresden. I've done one in Zurich. Yeah, one in my own gym. Yeah, so I've done quite a few around the place. I haven't really actively pushed to try to like market them and do them, but it's more so been gyms or people reaching out to me, and I'm more than happy to try to organize that stuff with gyms. It's a cool chance to meet more of the community and share my experience and knowledge in the sport.
Your knowledge in the sport, I really want to pick some of that, because in the recent live stream that I saw in the last major, was it where was it again? Remind me. Not Las Vegas, the one after.
Glasgow.
Glasgow, the last one in Glasgow. And I wasn't there. I saw the live stream, and an interesting thing that they said, you scored third again. Was it third? You were
fourth.
Up there, fourth, but you were definitely up there again. And one interesting thing that the commentators said about you, first of all, they like to comment about your running form, but this time they didn't. This time they commented on the fact that you shouldn't be as fast as you are. If you look at your strength numbers, if you look at your run numbers, you should not be as fast as you are. You should not be able to beat everyone, but you still do. You still do on a regular basis and score third place, fourth place, run very fast times. So I believe there's definitely something you can tell people, and can tell us about your secrets, if you will. Or maybe it's not, it's not all about numbers. Some of it is just how well is your body able to push through. Like there's some of this mental factor going on. There is a physiological factor of how well are you able to clear lactate, and just things like that have nothing to do with mere how fast is your 10K. That's one thing. But then it's a completely different thing of how well are you able to stay fast under fatigue.
Yeah.
Right. If you hear those things, what is your reaction to this?
Like I have conversations about this with people all the time, because coming into the sport, I kind of had the impression, like exactly what you said. How fast is your 10K time? How heavy is your back squat? Kind of putting those two things together, like that's going to determine a lot about who's going to be the best HYROX athlete. And over the years, it's just absolutely not the case. Like, what's cool about the sport is it is like a new sport. Like you can't be specialized in like these individual elements of pure running, of pure lifting, of like even CrossFit. Like you need to be specialized in HYROX.
Right.
And I've seen a ton of guys online and things posting run splits, lifting numbers that are a hell of a lot more impressive than mine, and I'm confused why they're not in the elites. Why can't they beat me at HYROX? And they're minutes slower. And that just goes to show like this is like a different sport. And those things absolutely matter. You need to be a good runner. You need to be reasonably strong or good strength endurance. But there's a lot more to it, right? On paper, it looks like quite a basic, simple event. It's easy for anyone to sort of wrap their head around and train for it in a reasonably good way. But when you really dive into like getting up to the elite level and things, there's so many little 1%ers and it's like a lot more to it than it kind of appears. Pacing and everything like that is huge. And movement efficiency on not just like you need to be good at all the stations by now. You need to be a good runner, but you need to be good strength endurance through every movement pattern. So if you're lacking in one of them, then that can be a 30-second like deficit on one of the stations, and then you're gone. Like you can't be in the elites if you really have a deficit on one station.
Right, for sure. And we'll definitely dive a bit deeper into those individual aspects. Let's start first with your first contact with the sport. So how did you get into HYROX? What was the background? Like, did you come from CrossFit? I assume that would be the case since you started a CrossFit gym. So what was your background before, and how did you eventually get to the elite level? I want to say so quickly. I'm not sure how quickly it happened, but tell us your HYROX story, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, how I kind of heard about HYROX was a guy that came into my gym and showed me this event that he was training for, and if I could help him prepare for it. And I said, yeah, I think I can absolutely help you prepare, and I'll do you one better. I'll come with you and try it as well. So
there we go.
That was like 3 or 4 weeks after that interaction, and we hit the.
And what was that? What year was that? 2000.
That was
the first one.
So it was the World Champs in Las Vegas. It was that season, in like March of that season. So that was the 24,
21,
22.
21, 22, I think. Yes.
Season. Yeah, it was at the start of 22, the back half of that season. Yeah. So man, it's not even that long ago, eh?
No, not at all.
So that's how I found out about it. I saw it on paper. It looked good for my sort of skill set within CrossFit terms. So I jumped on it and did a little bit of extra running. Well, I did no running before that, but I was naturally reasonable. Like, I was a pretty good runner for CrossFit standards. And so then I realized immediately I could be really good at it, looking at sort of the elite times and stuff, and just went full send into trying to, like, everything was geared towards training for HYROX after that. And it was like, if you think of it, my first race in 22, and then I was in kind of mixing it with the elite guys like later that season, and then the next year, like, I was basically in the elites. I was 1 second off making world champs elite 15. So I did get there pretty quickly, but like in respect to starting HYROX, but it was absolutely not quickly in terms of like building fitness, right?
Yes.
I did 8 years of basically semi-pro / pro level of volume CrossFit training. And then before that, a lifetime of like regional level ball sports, right? So just basically a lifetime of sports led to that. But the actual time in HYROX wasn't that quick, so it was a quick ascent to the top. But yeah, you can't really look at it like that. You got to look at the background and the decades of sport experience before that. Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, the HYROX time was the time you spent in HYROX and the time it took you to ascend was fast. But then all the decades before. So what was the ball sports you played?
Like at a decent level was basketball, volleyball, and tennis. Yeah.
Okay.
Tennis gave me the opportunity to go to America and study there on a sports scholarship.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I guess tennis was the main one, at least. Yeah, through those years. Yeah.
And so that gives you the basic conditioning base, the endurance base, because you need to run, and especially in tennis. I also played tennis for some time when I was younger, and you do have to stop and then sprint and stop and sprint. So there's a lot of that going on. Yeah. And if you do that for some time, then your body's able to handle that stress better. Plus, then you train CrossFit, which gives you a good strength base. And so that base built over, I don't know how many years, is probably the main reason why it happened so quickly. Plus a little talent here and there, and there we go.
I think it's also like growing up playing ball sports, right? It's also the way you play ball sports. For me, it was like running around, like going nuts, basically. I was very competitive and just like basketball, I was sprinting up and down. I wasn't going to like let a fast break go, or volleyball, I'm just always want to be on the court, jumping, blocking, whatever. And then tennis, I would die before I let a ball pass me. So my style of play on all those sports was very much like I had to be fit. I had to. I was a grinder in tennis, so which kind of means I would just try to chase down every ball. I didn't have big weapons, but I was great defensively. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my style of play lent to getting fit. Yeah.
And that's also, it seems like that's also the style of racing in HYROX at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, HYROX is that, right? It's just a long grind.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
but it's also, it reminds me of what you just said, more defensively in the sense that you don't attack from the beginning. You come from
Yeah.
behind, you pace yourself very well, and then you look at the other guys. You know, Tim Vanish does that sometimes. Hunter does it every single time. Goes out hard, goes extremely hard on the ski, like sub 140 on the ski. I'm like, okay, if that works for you, please. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the wisest strategy, and it appears that for most it's not the wisest strategy, because you see a lot of people that do have to quit the race or that fall back eventually because they overdid themselves in the beginning.
Yeah, there's probably a bit of that, but and everyone says, yeah, I take it easy at the start, but I absolutely don't, you know? Like I have not a high end speed, so I just can't even keep up at the start.
Right.
You know, it's not like I'm going easy. I'm pushing. My first kilometer is always the fastest one I do.
Sure.
So I'm not chilling. I'm feeling like I'm on the line of almost blowing up for those first few runs and stations. It's not because I'm trying to pace it and take it easy. No. It's
so you also go out hard.
Yeah, I do go out hard, but the others are just faster at the start. And then like my strengths in the stations, I think, come later in the race, which makes me look like I'm maybe pushing harder later in the race. But for me, like skiing at or sled pushing in the time that I do might be middle to even like back of the pack, but then lunging the way I do puts me like top 3 every time.
Right.
But the effort is the same, right? So like it just kind of coincidentally, those last sort of few stations seem to suit me well. So it looks like I'm pressing hard at the end, but I'm pressing hard the whole time. Yeah.
You're pressing hard the whole time, and you're just beating everyone on the last few stations. That's how it works.
Yeah, I like that it goes that way. It would be a lot more of a stressful race, I think, if my best stations were at the start. And I feel bad for the guys that do have it that way, because if you're in the middle of the pack halfway and you know your best stations have gone, you don't have a lot of hope. It's tough to stay mentally tough. But for me, I can be back of the pack halfway, and I still have hope or confidence that I can chip through a few places at the end, you know. So it does definitely have its benefits. Yeah,
especially the wall balls. Like you've seen so many times in races that people from 10th or from 8th place suddenly jump to 3rd or to 2nd place just because they did it unbroken.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you can be within 30 seconds, like for me, I can do it unbroken a lot of the time now.
Yeah.
And so if I'm within 30 seconds, which is quite a long time in this race at the elites, how close it is now. So
yeah.
If I can be within 30 seconds of a handful of guys, like, man, I can potentially jump like multiple places.
Yes.
I usually jump at least 1 or 2 places just in the wall balls. So yeah, like it's never over. And that's the cool thing about HYROX as well, is that every station, like obviously all the runs are the same, but every station is a very different like movement pattern, right? So like everyone's obviously going to have some stations where they're stronger or weaker, and it makes for such a exciting race because the leads and the positions change often. If it was just a 10K all just run, you know, or all the stations were the same, then the lead wouldn't change as much, because it would be like it would just kind of stay steady. It would only change if people blew up or surged or something like that. But here it's like your ability on the stations often just determines where the places switch. Yeah,
each station is a potential separator.
Yeah,
you see that all the time. Some stations are more of a separator. For example, in farmers carry, usually not much happens, but on the row, nothing happens because, you know, you gain or lose maybe 3 or 5 seconds because everyone is kind of going at the same pace.
Yeah.
But
the sleds are massive separators.
Sleds, wall balls, burpees sometimes. If
No,
you
it makes
if you
for an
blow up on the
exciting
burpees.
watch for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's for sure. That's why it doesn't, it only gets a little bit boring if you watch the running because not much happens on the running, but then the stations,
Yeah.
ooh, separate here, separate there. And then
Yeah.
someone from the very back on the sleds, it's so funny if you see the guys pushing in the front and then suddenly from the very back runs past them and the commentators are like, who is this? Like where's that guy came from?
Yeah, it's so true. The camera guys and the commentators have got to be onto it, they got to really scan the field and see what's going on. Like in Glasgow, I think it was Rich Ryan was in second to last place. He was beside me and just sprinted down and back with the sled and came out like in fifth, I think. Just overtook like most of the field. You see, like another race, for example, like the cameras on a couple of guys on the wall balls at the end, like, who's going to get the qualifying spots, who's going to get it, and then all of a sudden, like, Graham Holiday pops out from behind and like crosses the finish line just past everyone on the wall balls, and no one even saw it coming.
That's right, that happened. Yes, I remember that one. They're like, oh look, this is Graham Holiday, what is he doing here?
Washington last year, I think.
Where did he come from? No, that's true. That makes an exciting race, and that also probably explains why it's such a hype right now. Like, would you say it's overtaking CrossFit at the moment, or has it already overtaken CrossFit?
No, man. Like everyone keeps asking that question. I think like a year ago, I would have kind of, maybe even a little more than a year ago by now, like laughed a little bit, thinking, oh yeah, I hope so, but that's optimistic. It's never going to happen. But now it's really happening.
It's happening.
It's definitely happening, and I think it's more so because of like participation at the events is just so popular, And CrossFit, sure. I think a lot of people just in CrossFit gyms and everything like love watching the games, the regionals, and you'd sort of put these athletes on pedestals and really just like love watching what they're able to do. But in HYROX, like there's a little bit about watching the top athletes, but I think it's more about everyone's like individual kind of journeys in the sport. People love, like I'll go to a HYROX competition a week after getting a podium at a major, and no one even looks at me. No one even notices or anything, which is absolutely fine. It's okay. But I find that interesting. If in most other sports you're at the top and you go to an event with thousands and thousands of people doing that sport, like you're going to be kind of bombarded with like photos and everything like that, right?
Right.
But in HYROX, everyone's so fixated and focused on their own performance, their own training, whatever. Like it's quite interesting like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's probably true because the numbers are quite insane. You have thousands, and in Glasgow was like tens of thousands of people spread over, what was it, 4 or even 5 days. So you have such big, huge events. In the very beginning, usually it was 1-day events. Then they started incorporating 2-day events, and now oftentimes you have 3-day events, sometimes 4 or 5-day events because it's just so many people.
Yeah, the demand is way exceeding their ability to keep up with it. Glasgow was, I think, the first 4-day event technically.
4. Plus the elite event.
Yeah, including that. Oh no.
Okay.
4. No, not including that. You're right. Yeah. So
not including that because it was on Wednesday.
5-day, yeah, we were on a Wednesday night out race. And that was also probably the biggest packed crowd other than World Champs that I've raced at for an elite race. So this was the day before everyone else raced, and it was, the tickets were sold out to watch us. And then there was races for the regular races on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was nuts. And I think there was 17 or 18,000 people altogether that race, and a ton of them are racing multiple races too.
Yes. Yeah, this thing that people race like 3 or 4 times in a weekend. Personally, I believe that's crazy because whenever I do a HYROX, and I've got better over the months and years, and the recovery has improved, and I'm not as dead after HYROX as I was after the first time. Like literally the first time, the day after, I was just sick for one day. I was sick. I was done. I had a fever. I had a headache. I was nauseous for a day, and then the day after, I was fine again. So the body was just like, nope,
Yeah,
we're
and
not
the
doing this anymore. We're
soreness,
done.
yeah, the
And then the
muscle
muscle
soreness
soreness, but it's still there.
destroys
The
you as
muscle
well.
soreness
Yeah.
is still there each time. So I cannot imagine to do it a second time, to do it a third time, to do multiple races. Or Jake Dearden, I think he did like 12 races or something, 11
Oh my
races. He did
God.
like a little
Yeah.
marathon or something sometime in the past.
Yeah.
So
like Charlie, the guy from England,
Yes,
he's always like
Charlie.
every weekend. I feel like he's racing 3 or 4 races. It's crazy. Yeah,
Charlie's crazy. He's
young.
doing like 3 doubles plus 1 pro,
Yeah.
1 open, and then he's still crushing crazy times every single
Yeah,
time.
the times are insane as well. It's so impressive. Yeah, I did the like 3 races in the World Champs last year. So the elite singles, and then the doubles it was 2 days after the doubles and the relay. So relay is not like a huge amount of volume,
Yes.
but the intensity's off the charts.
Mm.
So that destroyed me so hard. I promised myself I'd never do multiple races in a weekend again. But I mean, I think my fitness is getting better now to be able to withstand that, and I think the PTSD is slowly wearing off. So by time of World Champs again, hopefully I can do both the elite singles and doubles and the relay. But just once a year should be all right. I don't want to mess with the rest of the season.
No, for sure. You should be smart about that, and don't destroy your body every single time, because it does put a good amount of stress and strain on your body.
Absolutely.
Is it for you? Is it for you mostly the muscle soreness, or is it like the cardiovascular fatigue, or is it the calves? So if I do a lot of running, the calves start hurting very quickly. So the muscle soreness in the calves, and from the wall balls and lunges, my glutes and my quads get sore pretty quickly. So for me, it's that mostly, and a bit of cardiovascular fatigue. And in your case, do you feel anything?
Yeah, absolutely feel something.
You do, okay.
I'm a human, yeah. I would say it's just full body trauma, eh? Like, you've just put your body through the absolute ringer. No part of it has not been worked to the bone. Like redlining the heart rate for an hour. It does some serious damage. Like, it's not good training to be doing like these races over and over again. It's a great test to test where you're at, test your fitness, and to compete. But it's not doing you any favors in sort of, I guess, longevity or like it shouldn't really be part of a training block. I would say it should be at the end as kind of a final stamp on it. But I would say the main muscle soreness is the quads. Like, I do hundreds and hundreds of lunges and wobbles and things in training, but something about the race and the level of fatigue that you're at, and when you get to those lunges and wobbles, and then the intensity you go at when you get there, it does something different to training that you can't really replicate. And the damage in the quads, mostly for me, is the worst. Like 3-4 days, I'm really in pieces. But it's interesting. Some races are better and worse than others, like, and I think it like, let's say Las Vegas, for example, I think for me, similar performance, similar like speed and everything as Glasgow, but Glasgow I recovered a hell of a lot better. And I want to say that in Vegas, well, first of all, like, you're at this venue with a crap ton of people. The chance of you getting sick, everyone like, sweating all over the show and, breathing heavy. The chance of you getting sick is quite high. And I got sick for a few days right after Glasgow. So that might have impacted, after Vegas. So that might have impacted the recovery slightly. But also the travel. I was going across continents there. The sleep was all messed up. And then also I had to do the drug test right after the race there. So that took me away for a few hours from like getting a recovery or like a cool down in. And I really think that was a big game changer as well. Like within 30 minutes after your race, spending 20 minutes just spinning the legs on a bike and doing a bit of stretching and then making sure you get that nutrition in right away makes a massive difference, I think. So there was a kind of a few factors like that can really make or break your recovery for those few days afterwards. That once you cross the finish line, you don't give a crap about like getting in the right nutrition, doing a good cool down. Because you're like, true. Oh, it's done. I can just relax, have a beer, that's whatever. True. But yeah, in hindsight now, like I'm really trying to make sure I do that stuff because it puts you back into good training 3 or 4 days after. Whereas if you don't do it, you're just adding another couple of days maybe of crappy training before you get into it properly again.
You risk getting sick because honestly, it's not just the crowd, it's also the fact that you put so much stress on your body and that temporarily weakens the immune system, right? So you do have over time, long-term training and stuff like that. It makes you more resilient, improves the immune system and whatnot. But especially if you're an elite athlete training a lot, every time you train, you have a temporary weakening of the immune system. And so you can overtrain and you have a chronically weakened immune system that way because it doesn't the super compensation is not happening. So it's like weakening. And then if you do the event and you also haven't slept enough or you have this jet lag because you traveled, so that also decreases quality of sleep, decreases immune function, decreases immune system, plus a lot of people, the breathing heavy and whatnot, plus crazy stimulus through the HYROX. Yeah. So no wonder people get sick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed this a ton in training as well. So my first year of really like switching from CrossFit to HYROX, like I think it was the way of training I changed quite a bit, right? I spend a lot more time kind of in threshold heart rate zones, doing longer aerobic workouts. And when I was doing CrossFit, like, man, if I did a conditioning workout over 20 minutes, that was really long. So the amount of time I was spending like in those, sort of high mid heart rates for long durations did something to like my body wasn't quite prepared for it. And the immune system was down and I was getting sick constantly. That first year of like proper HYROX training, I was really getting sick a lot. Now I'm not anymore. Like I haven't really been sick at all for the last year, really. It's just like your body's adapting and being able to withstand the volume and the intensities, and is able to still protect itself or have the energy to have a bit of security against sicknesses coming in as well.
No, for sure. So now you already mentioned some of the HYROX training and the strategies you use, because I've been thinking about that a lot, what the optimal strategies are. And what I see a lot of athletes do, whether elites or not, is they do a lot of WOD type of training, mixing up exercises, doing a lot of circuits. And I've been thinking about what the best strategy is, whether you should do workouts that simulate the race, where you do exercise after exercise, including a lot of compromised running and whatnot, and kind of bringing yourself close to the red line each time you train or every second time you train, whatever, because you see that quite a lot for people. Or if you Google popular HYROX workouts, it's oftentimes it's what you see. It's, I don't know, 500 meter run, 30 wall balls, 40 burpees, 30 lunges, and then repeat whatever 6 times. And then I've been thinking about a different approach, which I'm trying to implement right now, which is mostly focusing on improving individual stations. So improving the running separately from the strength work, separately from the ERK work. And then obviously closer to the race, you have to get more specific and include compromised work. But trying to get better at the station separately and then trying to bring it all together. So what are your thoughts on those different approaches, and how do you do it in your training?
So how you described it then, and sort of your journey into thinking about how you're training and how you've evolved it, is exactly what I think everyone basically goes through. They look at the HYROX race at the beginning, me included, and it's like compromise running, like long, grindy run station.
Yes.
Like basically simulate the workout over and over again. And this is absolutely not the best way to. You're going to get some initial gains out of that, and you'll see a bit of improvement, just getting used to that style. But you're going to run into a plateau real quick. Exactly what you said. You want to think about raising up the individual elements, having like station specific work, running specific work, strength specific work, and building all of these things up more individually, and then, like you said, sort of touching on more the simulation style or running in station work, like when it gets close to the race. But once you're experienced, you don't need to do that much. For me, I might do like a run station type simulation, like a couple of times in the couple of weeks leading up to a race. But other than that, it's like once every couple of weeks, I'll do run in stations. For me, running is still more of a weakness against the guys I'm racing. So I want to put most of my energy and effort into pure getting better at running, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not interfering it with anything else. Just like, it's usually the first workout I do in the day, my running session. So I'm the freshest, I can put the most focus into that. And then, yeah, with the aspect of like compromised running, right? I'm a real believer in, like, it doesn't need to be compromised running. It just needs to be compromised movements to get better at like changing your movement pattern, getting your body used to switch it, like pumping blood from your arms now to your legs, now to your back, like, you know. So it doesn't need to be running burpees, running ski, running back squats. Like it just, I think it needs to be basically your typical CrossFit Metcons, you know.
Yeah.
Double unders, burpee box jumps, and dumbbell snatches. And so that's where I spend most of my, I guess, compromised work, is just like Metcons and EMOMs, and but they don't have any running in it. I think just building your body's tolerance and ability to move blood from one position to the other, practice these movement patterns, get really efficient, and that's, I think, yeah. So if you kind of think of it in like three different elements, your like strength and power work, your compromised work, and your running or endurance engine work, right? And sort of having these three elements, more or less, that you're just building up independently of each other, and then occasionally mixing them, blending them, to get more of the stimulus of a HYROX. Yeah.
So the mixing does seem to be one important factor, even though most people overdo it, probably, because remember we talked about in the beginning how just being good at running is not enough, as a matter of fact. And even having good running numbers and good strength numbers, even that's not enough. So there's still another component where you need to bring it together and need to be able to work in a compromised fashion, because, even though, you know, you have to admit that particularly the good running numbers are crucial. And there seems to be some correlation. So someone who runs 10K in just 50 minutes won't make it into the elites. Whereas you have seen people who are like ex-triathletes, ex-professional triathletes, making their debut with some insane times. You know, you've seen that happen a handful of times, and especially the running numbers are crazy. So that does seem to be a very important factor. And I like how you mentioned that you want to, you know, running as your weak point, and that you try to focus on running when you do a running session, running only. And it absolutely makes sense, because if you think about it, if you do it in a compromised way, then the running stimulus itself won't be as great. First of all, because the overall volume isn't there. You know, if you do 500 meters 6 times, you have 3K of running volume. Whereas if you do 1K 10 times, you get 10K of running volume. Plus the intensity isn't there. If I compromise my running, I can't run at the right speed. If I'm fresh and I rest and then I do my running, then I can run at greater speed. So I get a much better overall running stimulus.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right there as well. Like, I'm speaking from my point of view. The compromised running aspect is very important. I would say much more important for someone coming from an endurance background, right? Because they've kind of capped out or reached their potential almost in like pure running. If they've trained like triathlon or running sports or something like that for many years, they're probably really close or at their top end potential, right? And so now their limiting factor will be compromised running. So how close to their threshold, or can they hold in a HYROX race now with also moving well through the stations and then flushing that lactic and getting back into their running pace. For me, I'm coming from a CrossFit background mostly, where we're constantly going movement to movement, doing these circuits and things where your compromised work is just like an everyday part of training. So I have no background in running or endurance sport training, like specifically. So my potential to improve in pure running is much greater than an endurance athlete or a runner or a triathlete. So speaking like from my point of view, that's my best way to go about it, is to just get closer to my potential in actual pure running. Because my blending of the stations to running is really good. I can hold at or sometimes faster than threshold pace in a HYROX race. So whereas someone coming from, like let's say Palaio or Rich Ryan, for example, they come from more running or triathlon backgrounds, they're not holding threshold pace, you know? So if they can get their compromised ability up to like mine, then they'll be running like 15 seconds per kilometer faster than me, rather than like 7 or 8, you know? So it depends a little bit on your background and where you're coming from, which areas you need to focus on more. Eventually, HYROX will be a sport where people are training it from sort of teenage years upwards. So their background will be HYROX. But right now, at the top, everyone's background are coming from a different area. So our trainings need to be a little bit tailored towards like maybe pushing, like biased towards a certain element, right? But eventually the top level guys are all going to, like their trainings will look much more similar to each other because they're coming from a HYROX background rather than an endurance or a strength or whatever.
That does make sense. I think that's an important thing to mention, that the training has to be different depending on where your potential was, where your potential is, where your potential to improve is. If your potential to improve lies in what you said, in the ability to maintain a good pace being compromised, then that's what you should focus on. Whereas if you come from a compromised background, so to speak, like you've done a lot of CrossFit work and you're already good at that, then the potential lies in improving the individual components. So that's a good way of thinking about it. And it's interesting, I saw, you mentioned people like Palaio not running at the threshold pace. I wondered, I know this, another guy in the Elite 15, Yannick Chapla, the German guy, he posts a lot of running on his Insta channel, and those are insane paces, like easy runs, 350 per kilometer, 345 per kilometer, going for 20 kilometers, and then heart rate is 140 or something, like such insane paces. For me, that's what I go for intervals for, like, and I'm resting 3 minutes and it's hard. And he runs marathons, sub 240 and whatnot. But then I don't believe he's like it seems like that's the paces he goes on, he runs for in HYROX, like the inability to, and you say you run at faster than threshold during your HYROX runs.
So exactly, like that's a good sort of indicator there, right? Like I'm running in a HYROX about my 10k pace. Okay, if Palaio was running at his 10k pace in a HYROX, he would, like, I don't know exactly, but I assume he'd be running like 320 kilometers per kilometer, right? And I'm running like closer to 340. So just that alone, like like he's running probably somewhere between his half marathon to marathon pace. So it's really different from athlete to athlete. Yeah,
that's interesting. So what would you say is your ability to we've touched on that in the beginning. Your ability to sustain that pace and to still be able, to be able to sustain that pace throughout the HYROX while other people can't. Do you think it has mostly to do with the fact that that's your main background, which is probably one big factor, simply because you have the physiological adaptations, they have happened over years and decades of compromised work through ball sports, through CrossFit. So I guess that's probably the biggest factor. But how much do you believe does you also mentioned the efficiency at the stations. You've mentioned that, and obviously if you get more efficient in the station, then that will allow you to spend less energy to spend less energy at a given station. So don't exert as much energy while still be as fast as the others or even faster. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think it's definitely a lot to do with my background of more CrossFit, but say exactly the question. What do you reckon?
So the question is, how much does the efficiency in station play into the ability to maintain above threshold pace? So to be able, the others, they do marathon pace, they do half marathon pace. So you're all running at, obviously you have those who run faster, those who run slower, but there is no one running at a 320 pace. No one is running 310 pace. So what do you think allows you to be able to maintain those fast paces while still finishing fast, and what doesn't allow the others to run faster at the runs or to recover better at the workouts? Like, how does it feel for you in a HYROX? Does it feel you're constantly redlining even in the stations, or do you believe the efficiency for you in the stations is so good that you're sort of manage to recover a little bit during the stations to then attack the runs again?
Yeah, I have heard this from a lot of guys that come from more of a running background, that they use the runs to kind of recover a little bit.
Yeah.
I've never understood that, because I've always felt like I'm redlining the runs and redlining the stations, to be honest. Like I think I move very efficiently and well through the stations. My movement patterns are good and I'm not leaking energy anywhere. So there's that. But I'm definitely working hard in the stations as well. I look at it as like a 1 hour race. I'm kind of putting out the same watts or the same energy, no matter what movement or exercise I'm doing, just constantly throughout the race, right? Whereas other guys might sort of lean into their runs a little harder, a little easier, depending. But I think for me, I'm just kind of a constant, like, moderate to hard effort the entire time, no matter what I'm doing. I think also just having accumulated so much volume of these movement patterns, like the functional movements, through the years of CrossFit and things, has like just enabled me to withstand that volume in the race quite well. Like if you're coming from an endurance sport, you haven't been doing hundreds of wall balls and lunges and squatting and hinging and burpees and things like every week, whereas I have. So yeah, like I might be just as fast as some of them through the station, but the impact it has afterwards, or just because your body's been able to adapt to withstanding that sort of volume on like commonly throughout the years, allows me to sort of just like wipe it off and get back into the running pace.
That might be a very important factor, because you realize once you get fitter, not only does your ability to go faster improve, but one important thing that happens is that you're able to recover more quickly from the work. And so that does not only apply to running. So I've seen that on myself, especially when it comes to running, that what improved more, I would say. So I did some track and field in the past when I was like in high school. And then I stopped going to that training and I focused more on calisthenics, which is my initial where my initial training journey started. And then when HYROX started, I started to run more again. And I was able to hit decent times during my intervals, but what sucked most of the time was the recovery afterwards. So I ran a quick interval, and then it took like 5 minutes to recover because I was so done. And now I can't really say that the times have improved that much. Of course they have, but what's gotten much, much better is the recovery in between. So now I can run the same time and then rest for 30 to 60 seconds and then go again and go again and go again. So that is maybe one very important factor. It still feels hard when you do the exercise, but maybe the ability, as you said, to wipe it off and keep going is what matters more.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true for sure. Like that's what I've noticed sort of over the last year or so of actual races, right? And just in training. If I do a hard threshold running session a year ago, like I'm pretty cooked. I'm keeping things pretty simple the rest of the day. Now I'll get done with my threshold session and I'll be right into like a strength piece and another like CrossFit workout, you know, like I can recover from these intervals and these sessions like so much better now just because of slowly grinding away and producing more just sheer volume consistently over months and months. And yeah, like the recoverability factor is huge. In a HYROX race, I'll finish a station and just really try to commit back to my pace as quickly as possible, because I don't think like breathing wise, aerobically, I don't think that that's going to be a limiter getting back to your pace. It's just the discomfort of one muscle group being smashed, basically. So if you come off the sled push, your quads are in bits, then you just commit back to that pace. A couple of 100 meters are going to be uncomfortable but manageable, and then you're still moving, and then you're like moving back at your normal pace again, right? So I think a lot of people come out of the stations and they really feel sorry for themselves because they feel this extreme burn and suffering in one point of their body or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And so they give themselves a bit of relief by slowing down. But if they don't slow down, it's not going to be any better or worse, you know? So just commit back to the pace. Maybe that's just me, but I think that a lot of people slow down more directly after the stations than they actually could. Yeah, they could go fast.
Someone who doesn't seem to feel any burn is James Kelly, because he just sprints after each station.
Yeah, he just likes making a statement after everyone.
I think so. I think he does like to make a statement before everyone and before every station and after every station. It's so fast that he sometimes he almost falls when he runs around the corner.
I know. Yeah, it's
so funny.
Impressive. But I think he's done it. He's done it initially, and then by now it's like everyone just expects it, and he can't go back on it, you know. So he just has to.
You think so? You think it's because it's an expectation? Because I don't know how much you can think about that when you're in the HYROX. I think it's just intuitive. Intuitively, that's what he does.
Yeah, he's damn fit, and he can afford to do that. Not many people can afford to do that, right? Most people their body won't physically allow them to be able to basically sprint out and into a station. But
that's true.
He's built his fitness to a level that he can do that. He's not running that pace out of the station that he does during the 1K. He sends it out there to make a bit of a statement, to get a few cheap seconds on the next person, right? Because it really does. If you're doing that 16 times every race, before and after every station, you're making up, let's just say it's 3 seconds every time. Man, you're making a lot of time up, almost a minute, just by committing to just burning it up, just going out and into every station. But not many of the rest of us have kind of, I don't know, maybe it's the fitness level. We're not at the level where we trust our bodies to be able to do that and recover. So yeah, it's impressive the way he does that, but it's cool to watch.
It is cool. It's very funny to watch. You know, the commentators they commented all the time on how he's not able to keep his feet when he runs around the corner, because he's waving his arms because he's almost falling.
Yeah.
So all right. Going back to the efficiency topic. So now we can quickly let's quickly think about the question of what do you think is like what a few major things that you think is slowing down most people, or where there's the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak, where there's the greatest potential in terms of efficiency. For example, for me, big time was changing the grip on the sled, like the way, how much more comfortable this, I don't know how to explain, like not the one where you lean in and have your hands next to your shoulders, but where you grab it from below.
Yeah, like the arm position on the sled. Yeah,
The arm
I
position on the
changed
sled. That was, for
like
example, one big example. Have you have any other ones?
Yeah, but that's a good example, because a year ago I switched to that and it was absolute game changer, right? And since then, teaching others and things in the gym, and it's made a massive impact for them as well. It's just something about being closer to the weight. You're just in a bit of a stronger, more efficient position. So yeah, just like positioning on the sled push is something. I think the sled pull is probably the station where you can leak the most like energy. And being efficient there is super important. Like keeping those arms long through the walk back, just utilizing the whole box with your feet, and just keeping your repetitions like identical to the last. Like every rep should look identical, right? And that's across all the stations. Lunges and wall balls and everything. Like wall balls also, a lot of people struggle with their efficiency there. If you catch the position in the perfect position, and use a bit of a bounce out of the bottom of your squat, you're nice and upright, like, well, that's determined a little bit on your mobility, but the efficiency on the wall balls can get sloppy, especially at that point in the race. So if you can just make that movement pattern like super efficient and repeat it over and over, like without having to think too much, then that's a huge benefit.
Yeah, sled pull and wall ball, that's also where you see the slowest times, I would say. If you do look at the average race, or the average person, if they're not prepared, then probably sled pull, burpees, and wall balls is where you see like the slowest time compared to all the other exercises. So it seems like that's where the greatest potential lies.
Yeah, I think burpees probably more so just because it's a fitness thing. If you've pushed too hard, if you're, it's more of a fitness thing on the burpees. There's obviously a lot of little intricacies to efficiency there as well. But I think the sled pull and the wall balls are the two stations that like it might not be a fitness thing. It might just be a movement efficiency thing that's really making you crumble.
For sure. Wall balls big time, sled pull big time. One question I had for you about burpees is because I have tried out different ways of incorporating them wisely in my training, because they're sort of, it's hard to figure out where they belong to, because sled, lunges, wall ball, like I can incorporate that nicely into the strength work, HYROX, running, that's cardio. But then what do I do with burpees? Because it burns me out too much if I was going to do that, incorporate into my running session. So no, but it's also not exactly strength. And I want to, leave my strength for the strength exercises that I do and don't burn them up during the burpees. So honestly, I've now the past couple of weeks I've played around with like a session a week or once every 2 weeks, where I do like almost just burpees, maybe some form of compromise stuff that includes burpees, just to train them, because I've realized in the St. Gallen race that was for me I didn't feel that well on that day. That's why the race didn't go as planned. But the biggest surprising factor was the burpees. They completely blew me away. So it seems like, for me at least, when I'm in the best shape, then the burpees is what kills me more than everything else. And then I realized, okay, I have to do something about it. But then how?
Yeah, I think as well, coming out of CrossFit background for my first race, I was the least worried about the burpees, but probably left the race being the most worried about them. I think how to train for them. I do a lot of variation in different styles of burpees just within CrossFit Metcon type workouts, right? Like we were talking about. So burpee box jumps, just regular burpees, burpee pull-ups, like all sorts of things. Devil's press is kind of a heavy burpee,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then incorporate into your strength plan or your strength endurance workouts the same movement patterns. So just think about what fatigues in a burpee, right? Like hip flexors, core, shoulders and chest, triceps. So for example, doing like a bunch of mountain climbers and push-ups, toes to bar, bench press, dumbbell bench press, tricep extensions, like thinking about what are the muscle groups that fatigue in your burpees. Obviously, burpee broad jumps is massively like an aerobic limiter as well. Like you just get gassed, especially like your whole body's working really. That jump is super fatiguing. So yeah, that's another aspect, like just doing workouts with broad jumps and box jumps and wall sits and single leg jumps just to get a bit more explosive. Even things like power cleans and thrusters and stuff are going to help with that, like strength, endurance and power in the jump. So yeah, just thinking about the movement patterns and building up the strength and endurance through those muscle groups, and then just getting good variation and a decent amount of volume of the actual burpees as well in different forms.
Yeah, that makes sense. The thing you mentioned about figuring out what's the limiting factor, so to speak, what's the muscle groups, what are the muscle groups, or what is the limiting factor, what fatigues first in a given exercise. I think that can be applied to every station, right? You can think about that way when you talk about ski. You have the cardiovascular component, but you also have the explosive pull that comes mostly from the lats. So if you have a good pull, my background is calisthenics, so I have do a lot of pull-ups, muscle-ups, and stuff like that. So the muscular thing was never a problem in the ski. I then had to focus more on building the endurance to be able to hold the pace. But getting to the pace was not a problem. And holding a fast pace was not a problem. Holding it for a long time is the problem, right? So you figure out what the limiting factor is for you and then tackle that.
I mean, you see at these HYROX races or just in your gym, there's a lot of big, strong dudes that can shred on the ski, like they've got good upper body strength, core strength from maybe doing more bodybuilding style stuff. And they can hit crazy paces on the ski. And then in a HYROX, it really sucks you in to do that, right? It's your adrenaline's pumping, you've just run 1K, you're just getting a little bit fatigue, and then you hit the ski, you're like, different movement pattern, I'm feeling fresh, just start hammering it. And this is where a lot of big dudes that are strong on the ski really mess up their whole race, because they're like, I'm flying, but they don't think of it as a 1 hour and a half race. They're thinking, let's just hit this 1K hard. And by the end of it, they've done a good ski split, but their core, their breathing is just out of control and they've just cooked themselves. So I think for guys more so generally, the strength or the power on the ski is pretty good for a lot of dudes. But it's more the endurance and cardiovascular side of it. For the ladies, generally, it's a little bit on the opposite side. Their power through like a pull up or a bench press or strict toes to bar, things like that are good indicators on how strong you are on the ski. Often they don't have that power or strength as much as the dudes. So they they're usually more efficient on the ski, and they can kind of hold a good steady pace. So they can pace it a lot better. But they can improve by getting that power, doing strict pull-ups, doing bench press, doing core work.
Yeah, and interestingly, you can really apply that to all the other exercises as well. You can think about in the sled pull, is it the grip strength, that fatigues first, or is it the lower back, or is it the glutes or the quads that start burning when you walk back, And so you can have, or is it also the cardiovascular component? Is it that you do a couple pulls and then you have to stop breathing? And so then you can attack all these individual aspects in training, do greater volume because I've been thinking about what helped a lot in my sleds was just doing sled endurance, so to speak, just doing extremely high volume of sled, like pushing it for hundreds of meters, not at a time, but maybe in a workout. And if you do that a lot, then what you described before happens. You're able to wipe it off much quicker. Like during the sled,
Exactly.
when I push, it still burns. It still burns.
Yeah.
But then I wait 10 seconds. It's good. I can go again.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what weight's on the sled. Like you do a bunch of sled push, it's going to hurt, like regardless of the weight.
That's true.
I think a lot of people get scared of the weight in as HYROX. So especially going into a pro, so they overdo the heavy sled training, right?
Okay.
So yeah, they're like overloading the sled, trying to make sure that when they get to the race, it feels no heavier than in their workouts. And that's fair. That should be one element of your sled work, like overloading it, making it really heavy and building the strength through those movements. But then I think what's neglected a lot is exactly what you said, sort of more the strength endurance element. So lightening it a little bit so you can accumulate a lot of volume and resistance through those movements. And then also the speed, right? Because yeah, what I've noticed a lot in the elite races now is like yeah, everyone can move the sleds well, but like how fast can you cycle those reps of the sled pull? How fast can you like move your feet on the push? And you don't improve that by doing heavy, slow, grindy sled work. You improve that by lightening it up and speeding things up. Like put half the weight or even less. Like I do sometimes sled push workouts where I'm literally got like 40 kilos on rather than 180, and I'm just sprinting down and back, big rest,
Right.
sprint, lightening the load on the pull as well, and just trying to cycle through. It's a good way to get really efficient on the sled pull action without destroying your muscle groups, because it's not going to take as much of a toll and crush the central nervous system. You can just put light weight on and just practice the skill, because there's a big skill element to especially the pull.
Yeah, that's an important thing you keep mentioning, and I think you also mentioned that a couple of times on your Instagram account, and it doesn't get talked about enough, I believe, the efficiency aspect. So everyone does talk about, and it is a very important aspect, strength, train heavier, then it feels lighter in the workout, but the idea that you have to train the movement as much as possible, you have to accumulate the volume, you have to practice the efficiency aspect to not leak energy during the race. I think that doesn't get mentioned as often as the other aspects that we also mentioned.
Yeah. Like I said at the start as well, is if you look at HYROX, the event on paper, it's very logical and it's easily understood how to do it, what to train, like things that you need to be able to do to complete it, right? But then when you really dive into these 1%ers and getting these couple of seconds here and there, like it can become really detail orientated, which is a fun aspect of the sport, because it's like same thing every time, basic, but at the same time there's so much intricacies to it, and we see more and more now, like especially at the elite level, like these fine details are just getting grinded out in their training and their racing. So it's cool. It makes it exciting.
It also makes the training exciting, right?
Exactly.
You don't just run or just ski or just row. You have to do. Running itself requires a specialized program. If you want to become a good rower, it requires its own programming, so to speak. If you want to become a strong guy, it requires its own programming. If you want to become as strong as possible, progressive overload. But if you want to put all these things together, you can think forever about what's the best way to achieve that.
No, it's it's heaps of detail in it. It's cool.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about kind of just constantly experimenting on myself. And practicing different methods and things, and figuring out, because it's such a new sport where we're still figuring out what is the most efficient, best ways to go about things to get good. So it's a real fun process, and I love the diversity of the training. That's why I think I'm so drawn to the sport. Like, one, the competitive element of it, but also just like I love the training. Like I equally like doing a heavy back squat session as a threshold run session. I love hitting the ergs. I love doing CrossFit Metcons, power, ollie lifting. Like I love all of it pretty equally. So there's no element of training, for me at least, that I'm dreading and like, oh, this is the shit stuff, this is the boring stuff. No, it's like, it's all fun, and because we're not just hammering one thing all the time, like, you don't get so burnt out with it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that's an important longevity factor also. I mean, for the longevity of a sport, for the longevity of your own training journey. One thing, because we're kind of approaching, 90-minute mark, and I don't want to keep you.
I've got some running hill reps to do in a minute. So.
Hill reps to do in a okay. So one last thing I wanted to talk to you about was kind of the mental aspect of things, because what I see in some other guys, we don't have to call any names here, but the arrogance that comes from being in the Elite 15, the idea that you're better than everyone else, and there's a few people who are who they put it forward all the time. Oh, they're sure they're going to beat everyone, but there's always that humility that shines forth when you don't say these things. You just go there, you execute, and you succeed. Usually you do succeed. And I just want to know what is going on in your mind at race line. How do you keep yourself mentally together?
Yeah, how do I keep myself mentally together is a struggle. Like, it's the anxiety levels and the stress leading up to a big race. Like, it's something that I definitely don't have down. Like, it's tough, and it's mentally really tough, and I wonder why I do it each time. But then when you cross the finish line, especially when you get a good result, it's like hands down 100% worth it, and I'm back to the drawing board and grinding away again, ready for the next one and excited for it. So yeah, it's like I definitely don't have all the answers there, and I think some of the other guys, probably the ones that you're thinking about as well, like, have a huge amount of earned as well. They have a lot of confidence based on results, but then also just confidence. I don't think I have that level of confidence in my ability. I have a lot of respect for the other guys I'm racing. I'm not overly confident that I can beat any of them, and the race is such a you've seen this season during the elite races how much the positions can switch.
Yes.
Like Dylan Scott, for example, has done 2 races this season, one last and one first. Like, nothing is guaranteed. I can't go and stand on that start line and think, I'm going to get top 5. Like, you can't think. I mean, you can try to convince yourself and think that, but I think I'm very realistic and real about like expectations and my ability. I know where I'm at amongst the field, and where I'm at is that I could be bottom 5, I could be top 5. Like, it's so tough to really understand where you're at before the race has even taken place.
Do you think that helps you, that realism? Or, because I've also heard by talking to other athletes, talking to other people, telling yourself, believing in yourself that you can do it, so to speak, that, the goal is to win, and then kind of, putting yourself into that mindset and also displaying that mindset is just a way to build yourself up, so to speak, internally.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think having being more realistic with my abilities lends to why I'm pretty consistent or pace the race well every time, mostly, because I don't have this overly high expectation of myself to just crush everyone and then blow up. And I think that's why you see a lot of guys have inconsistent performances, because they might have a bit more confidence or self-belief, or they talk themselves up internally to think they're gonna, or to hope they're gonna crush everyone, and it can backfire if you have a slightly off day or things. So I think being realistic allows me to kind of not ease myself into the race, but just be really understanding of like how I'm feeling at every moment, and be like really racing internally rather than just trying to like put on a show and be like super aggressive or anything like that. Yeah,
because you can overdo it. You can on that day you can you can overestimate your abilities on that day, or you can also underestimate your abilities on that day. So you do have to, as you said, race internally, feel what's happening, and then just see what happens, and then
like one of
it.
these days I'm gonna have to like really just send it from the beginning and try to stay with the front guys from the beginning just to see what happens, because there's that element, like maybe I haven't actually hit my full potential. Well, I feel like I have, but like maybe there's another small step there that I could reach if I just like go way outside my comfort zone early on, but I haven't been willing or confident enough to do that yet.
So far, your strategy has been working, as far as everyone can tell.
Yeah.
So it's worth. I mean, obviously, you'll do enough HYROXes in the next couple of years. So maybe it's worth to playing around with different strategies. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So is there?
I like the strategy for now, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, that was also the like. You said you feel like you don't pace yourself. That's what you told me in the beginning. It feels like you go in hard, but you just can't keep up with the fast guys. But honestly, the wise pacing strategy is also the one that so far worked best for me. So my fastest race so far was HYROX Hamburg this season, and I did exactly that. So I did hold back a little on the first run. I did go more conservatively on the ski. And I left the ski still feeling okay, and I pretty much felt good throughout the race. And I only start pushing it, so to speak, redlining it, red zoning it, closer to the lunges. But during the burpees, always a quick red line, always, no matter what you do. But generally speaking, it worked wonders that day. And obviously, you have days where just things feel better, and then you have days, like for me, it was St. Gallen, where just nothing works. So that also happens. It might have been just a combination of those things. But
I think you're right. Like 90% of people, the conservative approach in a HYROX is the best one. At the elite level, where we're pushing under an hour, like just scientifically, like you can redline for an hour, right? So if you're fit, so just like if you know your race is going to be more like an hour and a half, then absolutely you need to be more on the conservative side. You're not going to be able to run at threshold pace because you can't do that for an hour. So you need to be kind of understanding of what level you're at, how long the duration of the race is going to be for you, to understand like your pacing a lot.
Yeah. All right, so I know you got to go. So there's a lot of things we could keep talking about, but I'll let you go. Is there anything else you'd like to tell people in the end of the podcast, or tell us, for example, where they can find you, website of the gym, Insta handle, and stuff like that?
Yeah. So if you're coming through Basel and you want to get a training in, then our gym is Tahi CrossFit, TAHI, and my Instagram handle is BeauNZ. And what else? I have a training program, online training program, where I sort of weekly put out a whole lot of training volume and all the categories that I think are the best way to train for HYROX based on my experience and a lot of what I do as well. So if anyone's interested in that, other than that, thanks very much for having me, Maxim. It's been a great chat. Maybe we do it again.
We'll do it again, and maybe I see you in some German race. Will we be in Berlin by any chance?
I won't be, nah, not this season at least. Yeah.
All right. Well, but then
we
might see each other sometime in the future on some HYROX event, or talk again on the podcast. Cool. All right. All the best, and talk soon. It was a pleasure. Bye bye.